What's going on, everybody? This is Doorskip. I just made a remix of "In the City" by Bass Stripper. I can't really show all of it just yet, but do want to go over some of the bass line a little bit and just kind of show you how I get my tracks clean. I'm still very amateur at this point, but I feel like I've really figured out how I'm going to be doing my pre-masters now from now on. So I'm just gonna kind of go over everything. But first, I'll just let you kind of hear what I'm working with, so you can kind of see what I mean by clean. All right, so I think that's all I can really show for now. But yeah, so let's just kind of start off with the side chaining. I do side chaining a little differently than a lot of people. I always see people using compression to just kind of distort the sub around the kick, or just kind of make it make the compression like minimize it. I prefer to use volume and multiple instances of it. I just find it to be a lot cleaner. I also like to do that with EQing in general, but we'll get to that. So yeah, let's start right here. So we have our kicks. So I have a kick and a body. So the transient and the kick body. So I want to make sure that that you can always hear the kick. That it always has its own separate room. You don't want all your sounds fighting for the same space, basically. So if you look down here, sometimes I like, when I take a sound, I actually like to look at the go down the row of the sound I'm trying to isolate, and then I will repeat that, or maybe copy paste or whatever. But so I go down the row and see if there's anything that would clash with it. This, I might do something like that just to make sure that the transient isn't clashing with the hi-hat, and that'll keep things nice and clean. But yeah, the side chaining I'm doing actually around the bass, because I still need the bass I still need the bass to be consistent. I don't want to do hard cuts everywhere, because hard cuts on a round bass sound it's gonna create like a pop sound, and you don't want those. You want to kind of, it's like sanding. You want to like smooth it out. You want to keep it nice and round. Because it's a round bass sound. So I have multiple instances of that, and I could keep doing that even more. I do find keep if you keep doing it too much, it can really reduce the sound too much. And then like this ramp is like very noticeable. So I just like to keep it at around 3. Or technically this is there are two different ones. So I have a sub one. So it's obviously separate sub. So and then I have these ones. These are sent to the bass bus. So I have the balance here. So what I did is I came here, I highlighted this small area where I wanted to make my transient spot, and then I just automated balance. And this is a stock plugin. You should be able to get it, or it should come with FL Studio. It shouldn't. I don't think it costs anything. But yeah, so you just go here, create automation clip, and then so that would be for just the subwoofer. So whenever the kick transient hits, and like right around this area where a lot of the meat of the kick is, I just like to have that area cut down. And then for here, I have a bass bus. So I actually have all my bass sounds. So I recorded all my bass sounds, and I like to just, whenever I have a bass sound, I like to just scroll up on them one, so they're just at this one right here. It's actually very convenient. So if you notice, if I go here, these are all my bass sounds. So yeah, I could just like, whenever I make the bass line, I can just, there we go, and it's right good to go. and it's got its processing that it needs, its compression, everything, just to level everything out. And then I also, with this, so you have to have two different instances of this, because if you try to automate one balance, it's not going to work. So you need to have two different ones, and then make sure that you're not like copying the previous one. So yeah, these are two different balances, and so they're doing their own separate volume automation. Because if you try to have two instances of volume automation on the one balance, it's gonna try to do two at the same time on that one. So if that makes any sense. Yeah, so you want to have two different balances, and then so it's doing two different instances of volume automation, nice and smooth round. So with this one, I like to bring it all the way down on the transient, so it's really leaves room for this. And this is just for the body, but I don't really cut all of this. So it just kind of has like a nice S curve. And I found that's what it usually sounds best. Sometimes I'll adjust this a little bit depending on the mix or the kick or whatever. Sometimes I like to have tighter kicks, and then therefore I can push my bass a little closer, so you can kind of move your sound around. Yeah. So I guess we can move on to the EQs. I do the same thing with the EQing. I believe all these bass lines have already been EQ'd with their sub frequencies being cut. I have usually multiple. I will put multiple instances in a synth sometimes as well, but if we open the mixer, so this is what I actually use to record my bass lines. So and then this is a completely different send. So this one is just sent to the bass bus, and then I record it, and then I put it on here and then resend it to the bass bus. But this is with the compression. Then so I usually have 3 or 4 EQs just like this. So the sound would come through, and then it would cut the sound. Like the first one would cut a little bit out, but if you opened up a second EQ, you would notice that there's still frequencies there. So you do need to cut more out, but you need, like I said, you need to keep it nice and round. You don't want to have really hard, sharp cuts. So yeah, so another thing I like to do, just to make this a little faster, whenever I open up my EQ, I have presets, so I can just go like this, boom, bam, and then it's got the EQ right there. Alternatively, you can just scroll up, up and down on this, but I think it's a little faster just to have a little preset. So, well, it's all about just finding the quickest ways you can. Then, so I also have side chaining for my snare. I don't really hear a lot of people talking about this. I'm sure like so many people do, but yeah, for the bass bus, I also have the bass bus not just running to the kick, but I have it run to the snare as well. And then I also have another side chain. So I have a completely separate bus. And this will all be really simple once you start practicing this, because I know I'm kind of throwing a lot at you. But so a third bus is just for the high end stuff. So it's literally just for like pads, just anything that you think might clash with the snare. And then, like I said, just with other cymbals, try not to have too many cymbals on top, try to like cut those away. But yeah, so you have your high one here. Again, you just set up a balance, and you just do one volume automation should be good. It cuts it enough. And then so you just combine those, and it just leaves just enough room for the snare. And then again with the snare, I do like to, same thing with the kick, just kind of add two together just to add a unique sound. But all right, now real quick, I do want to go over how I record my bass line. So I went to my bass template right here real quick. And while I do this, this is also while I'm making my track in my pre-master, and I do like to do my mastering separate. So I will have a pre-master, and then I will bounce that out, and then send that to a new FL Studio project, and then master it there. But I do like to keep a limiter in my master, which I've heard, turn it off before you do actually master. It probably does lose quite a bit of information if you leave the limiter on. So yeah, make sure you turn the limiter off. But the limiter is actually a really good tool to see what you're doing. So I like to keep mine detached. So then I usually like to put this on like a separate monitor. So this will be over to the right. So then while you're playing your track, so this might be a little loud, sorry. You can see right there where it's peaking over. And then basically the goal is to kind of whatever you want your loudest sounds to be is going to be hitting right around here. So your kick and then your snare is probably going to be like somewhere around here because higher sounds are easier to perceive, so they don't need to be as loud. So a lot of sounds are like that. So just beware of that because you can cause a lot of harshness if you let it clip over. But yeah, the goal is to just try to find those spots and like anything right there where you find things that are clashing, you want to investigate. Like investigate what's going on here. Like this isn't really that big of a deal. I'd probably let this slide and just move this to the master because that's perfectly fine. It's like it's a little clip, whatever. But if you can, by all means go for it. Yeah, try to find something and like EQ it out, or maybe just like do a little bit of volume automation, anything really subtle that can really get that over the line. Yeah, so now we'll move on to the bass lines. So right here, I'm gonna undetach this. So this is gone. All right, I'm gonna turn these synths off because we don't need all of this. Okay, these are already recorded. So this is actually how I write songs. Like I'll record songs and then I just take my bass lines and just kind of arrange them. And the nice thing about these bass lines is when I do record them, a lot of them line up because I'm just making very subtle changes. So like this one has like basically the same rhythm or a very similar rhythm. And then so you can just kind of swap little parts out. And then these basses also do have the sub underneath, which is the separate sub that's consistent through all the basses. So you're not something that can sound very amateur is when you have a sample and it's very obvious that it's a sample and like it has a different sub than a different sample, and then it's just kind of like I don't know. You can definitely tell. Sometimes you can probably make it work. I don't know. It can kind of sound dynamic in some ways. Yeah. So I like to just chop these up, and then a lot of these will just kind of flow. You could literally take this right here, and then if you just want to like have this on like the one just for like a little section, you could do that. Don't really sound that great, but anyways, you get the idea. So, and the bass was consistent. So, but let's actually take a look at the rest of this. So I have quite a bit going on here, and these don't really matter too much. These are all just separate samples I took just by making different variation changes. So I'm gonna just delete these. So I actually don't have a synthesizer running to these MIDIs. If we open up here, go to unsorted. So this is if you want to find all your synths real quick, you can just click unsorted. It'll show them all. I'm actually not using because I am using serums, and I'm using multiple serums. So I have a whatever bass I'm using, and then I have my separate sub. But how I'm actually recording my bass line with both of them is I have them running both to something called layer. And layer is awesome because it'll play the synth and It'll play the synth and the sub at the same time. I think there might be some automation making it quiet, but so if I go here, you'll see that these are just layers right here. And then if you want to like switch, I do have multiple basses in this MIDI lineup, so I can just quickly scroll right here, and it'll bring me to my other one. So I have the bassline B, or I have two different serums working off the same sub. So there's three different serums. So if you come back here, I have layer one is synth A and the sub. Layer B is synth B and the sub. So this layer will always play my other serum. So to set this up, go here, where you would hit this plus, and then you would find layer. And so I believe you have to hold Alt and Shift, and that will select all of these, make them green. So basically you just have to select which ones you want layer to link together. So you would click, say, synth A and the sub. And then from here you have layer open, you would just hit set children. So I've done that for these ones. So I just went for, say, for instance, with B, I just went synth B and the sub. And then that's connected these. So yeah, if you just want to run your MIDI out of these don't require like a mixer tracker or anything. So all your mixing processing is still how it needs to be, like separate. So I have two different layers, but I also like to just throw in just the sub. So like I said, I still have access to the subwoofer, so that can kind of add like a little bit of groove. See, it just adds like a little, almost add like a little bit of funk. But so I have all those set up, and then I would just go into my synth. So I would just, and then I have different variations of the MIDI. So it should, all of these MIDI should kind of follow like a very similar, a similar groove, but then just like different enough so you can just kind of like add some variation. So these, it's like totally usable. You can make a whole track just out of these right here. So then you would highlight this one, and then you hit Control Alt C, and that would create a bass line. So this is going to have the recorded layers and then all the processing. Now from here you can, like I said, you just scroll up like that, so it's on one. Boom, you're good to go. And then so this is rerouted. So it's gonna have a little more side chaining on it, so it's gonna sound a little more hollow than it would otherwise if you didn't link it there. So that's up to you by taste. If you want to leave a little more of it in, then you don't have to keep processing it through the bass bus. But hell, you could send it a third time if you really want it. You could re-record it and resend it. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so you would do the same thing here. Control Alt C. Keep in mind when you do this, it actually mutes the pattern. So you would have to go here, and then you would hit Alt Shift M, and then there you go. It's unmuted. So then you can go back, Alt Shift M, and so you have these recorded bass lines, and you would go up here and record all these. And then when you want to make a change, so let's go to one of our synths. Let's just go to synth A. Oop. Actually, we should go back over here. It'll just make it a little easier to work with. So let's just go to baseline. Let's bring baseline A over here, and we're going to actually mute all of these. This is another way you could record. You could just have your full drum set, just to make sure that it actually like sounds good with the drums. And to make sure it actually gets the automation. Of course. So realistically, you would actually want to bring all of these bass lines over here. So I'll just delete these, bring these all over here. And then you would go down the line and record that way. I believe with this last track, I just decided not to run it through the bass bus again, so, or only run it through once. So same thing, you would just to make it a little easier, you just bring them all up here and then mute the ones you're not using, or just to check which ones you want to actually use. All right, so let's just say we recorded all of these and we got them all, and let's just check another one just to make sure it sounds good. You can do a lot with all of that. So, all right, but let's actually change the main sound. Let's say we want to like drop 2, we want to have it be something completely different. So we go back here. From here, you could just open up a completely different patch if you want, or you could just do like some minor variation. Say that sounds really good, and then we just go down the line, make sure all of these sound good. Same thing, just Control-Alt-C. And boom, you got a new bass line. And you just go to it, scroll up, and then you're ready to throw it in and make a track. And you just, if you want to take all your drums, boom, boom, boom. You just Control-C, Control-B. Keep your drums going. Keep your pattern flowing. And then you add an intro. You got a track. So, yeah, I hope this helped you guys out. This is how I like to do it. Yeah, let me know if you think I'm doing it wrong, if you have any tips for me. Yeah, I hope you guys make the best tracks of your life. Have a good day.